Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing really well because today we're talking about music and we're talking about SoCal ska punk legends Goldfinger, specifically their EP Darrin's Coconut Behind. Darrin's Coconut Ass, live from Omaha. This is a 1999 EP. It's not a live EP. It's not a live album. It just means it was recorded live in studio. So there's very few overdubs. I think they mentioned on the liner notes only three tracks have overdubs. It's like 2, 3, and 7, which we'll get to because I know numbers. Why would that be meaningful to you? Specifically, let's get into this. So this came out November 9th, 1999, on the label Mojo. So this was sort of released as a stopgap EP. They just released in 97 their album Hang-Ups. So if you've never heard of Goldfinger, yes, you have. If you've ever played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on PlayStation or N64, you've heard Goldfinger and you love them. If you're in your early to mid to late 30s, you know Goldfinger. If you were into the Warped Tour or any of these kind of big punk rock, pop punk tours, you know Goldfinger. Specifically from Hang-Ups was the track Superman. But even earlier on their debut album, they had stuff like Here in Your Bedroom and Mabel. And they're really one of the groups that really propelled that, as we come to know it, the summer of ska, that kind of third wave ska revival that really took off in the mid to late 90s. So 97, very successful album. They want to put out more and more music, but their label says, hold on. So they do have an album that follows in 2000 called Stomping Grounds, which is really good too. It's got one of my favorite tracks, Counting the Days. That's a good album. That's a good track. But specifically, we're talking about this one. So they went in late one night, recorded just under or just over 20 minutes of music for 8-track EP with a few overdubs. So who's in the band at this time? You have John Feldman on vocals and guitar, who is not only a great performer and songwriter, but just a great producer as well. He's worked with so many people across the board and continues to this day. It's fantastic. Charlie Paulson on guitar, Simon Williams on bass, and Kelly Lemieux on bass, and Darrin Pfeiffer on drums. You may notice I mentioned two bass players. So there's been some lineup changes in the band over the year and over the years, not just this year. This year did have that, but over the years. And I can't find in the notes, it just mentions them both on bass. Doing some research online, I can't necessarily find who's doing what on this album. Chances of two, we're not talking King Crimson here. We're not doing like a union tour, the three pairs or whatever. So my hunch would be that some members are playing based on one track versus the other. That would probably make the most sense, because I know the bass players do switch out at this time. Who you have on Hang-Ups is not who we get on Stomping Grounds shortly after. Um, so this is actually one of the first CDs I ever bought. Not this one specifically, I've recently repurchased, but this one going into Ambi Sound with my change, with my allowance, thinking, what am I going to get? I probably picked this up because they used to have a section at Ambi Sound called Punk, so I'd go there to see what's on sale. And given that this was an EP, it was probably more affordable. So that's probably one of the reasons why I picked it up. I don't know. I think I got them at the same time, but I know Less Than Jake's Hello Rockview is one of the first CDs I ever bought for myself as well. So hold a special place to me. And this is a live EP, as I said. And the reason that's important is because Goldfinger are easily one of the best live bands I've ever seen. Only seen them twice, but they put on a fantastic live show. Their energy is infectious. They get the crowd going, the crowd gets them going. Like even to this day, they're still at it, they're still around, they're still touring, and it's amazing to see them. If you ever get the chance, go see them. Even if you don't know any of their music, you will feel welcomed. You'll be singing along. It's one of those things where their fans are some of the best fans ever. It's a great vibes, great time all around. That said, let's get into the EP. So 8 tracks, just over 20 minutes. And one cool thing about this being maybe the first release I got from this artist is you get a really good idea for their sound. What do they sound like? You get that here certainly, but you get the introduction to other bands. And the really cool thing is that this is a curated list. They pick these bands and covers because they're songs that are important to them as a band, to them as people, not just 8 songs they know, 8 songs they could just bust out real quick. 8 songs that are important, which is really cool. And at the time, I didn't realize these were covers when I was first listening to it until I think my older brother walked in and was like, "Are you listening to The Cure? What is this?" Because there's a Cure track we're going to talk about, which is actually the first track. So they do a cover of Just Like Heaven. It clocks in at just under 2 minutes. So in terms of the ska or the punk, we're going for the punk on this opener. It's energetic. I think The Cure, the way they write lyrics and the way they structure their songs lend themselves really well to kind of very upbeat pop punk covers, which is what Goldfinger does. So it's a really cool cover. I like it a lot. Next up, we have Is She Really Going Out With Him by Joe Jackson. I would say this sonically doesn't like track the original, but like energy wise, it feels very much like the original. And I think that's why it doesn't hit me quite as much. It's a really good cover, but I never really cared for the original. And I feel like because they're going so close to that original intention, it kind of misses the mark for me. But however, I know other people, this is their favorite track on the CP. So what do I know? I just got a channel. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe and hit that bell icon for more whatever happens when you hit the bell. Next up, we have a Bad Company cover with Feel Like Making Love. This is kind of a fun novelty cover on the EP because we get these very kind of overly poppy verses, like overly bubbly horn lines. And then you get this like really gruff and hard kind of chugging along metal riffs for the chorus, which is a lot of fun. It does mean like I said, a bit more of a novelty. It feels less like just an honest to goodness take, but it's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. Next up is maybe one of my favorite covers on this album. It's Nightclub by the Specials from their self-titled debut. Um, this one feels, I don't know how to put it because it's definitely not just a copy of the original, but it feels like if the Specials were not a two-tone band, but were a third wave ska band, but they still wrote Nightclub, this is what it would sound like. So it's still like a ska cover, it's a third wave ska version, but in the same way that the Specials kind of took the punk energy from the UK during the late 70s into the 80s, that's what you get here with this version of Nightclub. You get that ska energy, but taking sort of the pop punk from the early to mid 90s into this time period, which is really cool. Very, very fun. Like it a lot. Then we have The Kids Are All Right by The Who. This is a really cool ska punk take. One of my favorite tracks on the album as well. It comes in at just under what? Minute 24, minute 34 seconds. So another blazing quick pop punk number. But it's really fun. Again, The Who are a really, really energetic band. They write songs that are typically, I mean, not so much anymore, but really high energy tracks. And they do a really good job capturing that on here. Next, you get a Peter Tosh cover of Downpresser Man from his album Equal Rights, which is a really great album. If you've never heard Peter Tosh's solo work, check out the album Equal Rights. There's so many great tracks on that, including Downpresser Man. Now, they kind of stick to a reggae version, which is good because it's a reggae song. And sometimes with tracks as notable as that, you do have a bit of a hard time sort of flipping genres. However, that original is so good production-wise, it's so sonically captivating, especially with Peter Tosh's kind of vocal delivery. But you do have a bit of a hard time doing your own kind of reggae version of it. That said, I think if you check this out, it's good. It's just one of those ones where you kind of do want to separate your mind a little bit from it. But it's still really, really good. And I think hypnotic as the original, but in a really different way. And then we got 2 more tracks. We have You Say You Don't Love Me by the Buzzcocks. And in the same way that that Specials cover felt like it could have been done if the Specials were a new band, I feel that way about the Buzzcocks. I mean, if they were around in now, or well, not now, but when this came out, they would have been a pop punk band. We didn't really have the term pop punk when they were writing their punk music, and certainly I think they uh, use that to their benefit. So I think Goldfinger, they took this and they're like, oh, okay, well, how has pop rock evolved since the Buzzcocks wrote this great, great classic song? This is how, and it's a really, really good punk cover. I really like it a lot. And then we close out with a Police cover of Man in a Suitcase. And This is a really, really fun take. I'd say this is more energetic than the original. The original has, I mean, it's hard to touch the police, right? Hard to mess with the police. Like tr they have some great, great ska and reggae tracks. Obviously, like Canary in a Coal Mine. Oh, that's a good one. So this one though, Man in a Suitcase. So it's hard to touch, but these guys do it well. I think this is another success. I mean, every track on here, even the ones I'm saying, oh, I don't like as much. That's on me. That's my bad because I'm missing out on the brilliance because really every track on here is great. This is also, got to show this off, an enhanced CD. Remember enhanced CDs? That's not focusing. That's all good. There's like music videos and pictures on here, I believe. I tried loading this up using a USB CD-ROM drive. Didn't work. Some CDs I have that are enhanced work, some don't. Got a Sum 41 that doesn't, but I really like that time period in music production and CDs. So overall, this is a great album. I think if I'm going to recommend a Goldfinger album, I might go with one of their originals. Maybe Hang Ups, maybe their debut, or maybe even their newest album. Actually, that's really good too. But if you just want something really, really quick, and maybe you already know these songs, so you're like, oh, I know what that sounds like originally. What does this genre do? What does that genre take and add to it? This is something I totally recommend. So all that said, 1999's Darrin's Coconut Ass live from Omaha by Goldfinger. Check it out. You gotta. You're gonna love it. Have a great time. Have a great day. I'll catch you next time, and I'll catch you the next way.